Marcellus, I'll start with you.
With my soft butt, huh?
The hell? He ain't from Compton. All right, what's the problem in Dallas? Jerry Jones, Jason Garrett, or Dak?
Wow. It's certainly not Dak.
No?
No, it's not Dak at all. Dak has been enhanced in the game plan, and that's because of belief in Dak and by performances by Dak. So it's not Dak. This team has gotten behind, especially the last 2 weeks early, and that's hurt their game plan in terms of balance. It has to be the coaching staff. It has to be Jason Garrett, and he's in charge of the emotions. I give you that. He's in charge of getting his guys engaged in battle. And let's just be real. This is also on Kellen Moore. This is also on the offensive coordinator who, for whatever reason, has lost that balanced approach in terms of how they come out the gate. But there's somebody else named who should be on that topic bar we haven't mentioned yet, Ezekiel Elliott. The last 2 weeks, Ezekiel Elliott has not combined for 100 yards, let alone had 100 yards in each game. So if you're Dak and you're promoted in the game plan, that is supposed to come with Ezekiel Elliott. Like, you don't abandon him to say, I'm going to enhance you, Dak, in the game plan. So Zeke needs to burden a lot of this responsibility because he's not been the same performer the last 2 weeks.
I'm going with the owner. It's ownership. It's going to be ownership Monday, obviously, stuff going on in the nation's capital. But the reality of it is the leadership rolls downhill. That rolls down the proverbial hill. And when you look at what Jason Garrett has accomplished in 9 years being there, three playoff appearances, no other coach that has come through those doors since the Super Bowl runs, and Switzer being the last one. You got Chan Gailey, Campo, Parcells, Wade Phillips. None of those guys made it to 5 years as a head coach of this team. And what's even more alarming when you look at it, they've made the playoffs just 3 times under Garrett. And you have guys.
So you blame ownership for
it has to be based upon ownership because the coaching staff is failing. The coaching staff is they're not living up to the expectation of what it is that needs to happen. But the reality of it is that the ownership has to make that change and make the decision to go in a different direction. Seems to be that they've done it in the past. It's interesting to see why they've made it to 9 years with Garrett.
Well, looking at it, I kind of agree with you there. I mean, the coaching, because looking at this game plan, what was so successful for them at those first 3 games, and they were beating up on teams that they should have beat, is they were running the football. And right now, for whatever reason, Zeke was getting off yesterday. I mean, some of those 9, 10-yard gashes, why don't you just keep giving her the ball? I don't care what the score is, because when Dak doesn't have that attack, that run-in attack, he's not the same player. Exactly. That's all there is to it. Yep. At this point in his career, I don't know if he'll ever be that good. But showing him to come from behind, he can't do that. He put up those big yards, but the picks were there, which is something he doesn't do. You got to get a game plan now. Actually, this is a good thing, because they've lost to 2 playoff teams. Probably the Saints are probably the best team in the NFL right now. And Green Bay certainly looks like a Super Bowl-type team, or at least a playoff-caliber team. But they should learn from this. You have to run the football for Dak to be that guy going forward. So I'm happy that this happened to him.
All right, so if we're blaming Jason Garrett, and it sounds like we all are, even you, LaVar, even though you're saying they should move on from the coach, and that's on ownership. So we all believe the talent is there, that they should have played better based on they're at home. We believe Jerry Jones has put together a high-quality team. No one questions that maybe they're not as good as the hype.
Well, look, they had issues at offensive line. You go out there without Tyron Smith, and then you lose another offensive line. Big loss.
Big loss.
You're losing 2/5 of your offensive line just going through the game plan. And then if you look at it, the way that they're approaching it with Zeke, like you said, Zeke this week showed flashes. New Orleans, he didn't show flashes, so I could see why they abandoned it, even though it was still a close game. They lose by 2 on the road. This week, it just wasn't the same juice. Troy Aikman was seeing it on the sidelines, but you saw it on the field as well. They didn't have that balance. So without that balance, it exposes Dak, who gets yards, who gets exposed with a lot of garbage time yards. 2 of those interceptions I won't put fully on Dak. One was a tip. The other one seemed like a deflection as well. One of them was his fault. But that's all in the promotion of him in the game plan. But you can't promote me, coach, quarterback, and don't promote my balancing act and my running game. The engine that is supposed to run this, which is Ezekiel Elliott.
But hold on, though. Again, we're putting a lot of blame on the offense. But that defense was terrible yesterday and got brutalized by Green Bay. that didn't make sense. Dallas is supposed to have a hell of a defense.
Yeah, and Green Bay's supposed to have a hell of an offense, right? So the reality of it, they've started slow, right? So
Green Bay down a wide receiver.
They have Aaron Rodgers.
I get it,
Yeah,
but Green Bay's supposed to have a hell of a defense. Their offense had started this season slowly.
The reality of the National Football League is the race to information. And what you saw take place in this game was Green Bay's ability to adapt and to adjust with the information that they've been given thus far through the start of the season. So you're looking at a Dallas team. It's not a hoax. It's just a time to adjust and to adapt. What Tony said, what Marcellus is saying. If it's going to be the run, you got to commit to the run. If it's going to be run, pass, if you're going to commit to the pass, you had better find passing routes that are going to work for the success of your team. So the reality of it is, I don't think it's a hoax, but you're looking at a Green Bay team that has made the adjustments, and they made the adjustments coming in properly for the Dallas Cowboys.
99% of the league's offenses, to me, are okay, we do this well, so let's keep doing this well. Let's keep doing it. We got to lean on that when times get tough. The 1%, the really, really good teams, you look at the New England Patriots, they do whatever is dictated by the defense that week. I don't think Dallas is good enough. Dak is not good enough. He's not Tom Brady. So he can't come in and say, okay, well, this time we're just going to throw it 50 times, and next week we'll run it 50 times. They have a formula for success that works, and they're a good football team. Aaron Rodgers is that guy, though, I think. I think he's been able to be that guy where he can throw the ball 50 times, or he can turn around yesterday and have this running back go off, and they leaned on that. So going forward, though, Dallas needs to figure it out, because teams will figure you out. We're at that point now in the season where, just like you saw last night with Kansas City, they're starting to figure it out, okay? Let's double-team Travis Kelce. Sorry. Yeah. And so people will, as they keep going out the season, they're going to have to keep adjusting if they can. Most teams can't do that, though.
Tony, it sounds like to me, though, then you're putting a lot more blame on Dak. He's just not really a franchise quarterback and limits what you can do offensively.
Well,
let's see what he says to this.
Leading the witness. And I will say this, I have no problem, but maybe I am saying that then, because Dak's at that point, maybe he can get better. What is his fourth year? But at this point, they have to run the ball in order for him to have success. That's just who he is at this point. He's not a bad quarterback. He's still a franchise quarterback.
Well, here's what I'll say. I don't know, this is a bit of a defense of Dak. We keep talking about Zeke, and lean on the running game. Hey, man, they have a bunch of money and a bunch of young talent on the defensive side of the ball. There's other ways to help a quarterback create field position, turnovers, 3 and outs, and use your punting game to play the field. None of that was going on either. When I look over at the New Orleans Saints, and this is, again, why I blame Jason Garrett and feel like he should damn near be fired, is I look at the Saints, and they lose Drew Brees, and they say, Sean Payton leans into his defense. And it's like Teddy Bridgewater played great yesterday, but it's the Saints defense that's like makes you go, oh, my God, this defense is incredible. And Dallas is supposed to have that kind of defense, particularly playing at home in a big game.
Well, they do have that defense. 6th rank in points, 6th rank in yards. They do have that defense. They lost the time of possession battle in part because Dallas wasn't running the football. They only had the ball for 23 minutes. We saw it in the Kansas City game. They only had the ball for 22 minutes. That's a recipe for disaster for any team to go out there and put that much pressure on your defense. The same defense that a week ago went on the road and lost to a Teddy Bridgewater New Orleans team, which is damn good, and only gave up 12 points. So this defense is balling. This week, they lose. This week, the time of possession battle was out of balance. This week also, you have to remember that Jerry's world is not a home field advantage for the Cowboys. Their win percentage at home is .554. It's like one more game at home you've won than you lost. Like they get at home, the other teams get it as juice, looking at that big jumbotron, as the Cowboys do. So you add all that up, I don't want to overreact on the defense. What I do want to react to is that there's not a balancing act when they're going out there and playing offensive football if they're going to put that much stress on Dak.
All right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. And be sure to check out more of the best clips from Speak For Yourself, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.